你大诺杜得哦吉灵，杜西宁诺伊高蒙尼吉波。巴罗边海草吉林嘟嘟咪咪狗，莫走给杜下哎耶莫少，给了我一米来到家。
In a world dominated by digital screens and instant gratification, there's an increasing divide in our human connections and difficulties expressing our vulnerabilities. Letters to My Podcast explores the tapestries of storytelling by transforming written letters into spoken word. I have the honor of interviewing courageous guests as they dedicate their letters to a loved one, showcasing their vulnerability through their past experience, present realities, future aspirations. Lastly, and most important, is wisdom sharing, imparting their wisdom, their advice, and inspiration to the next generation. Some of you who may not be Hmong may be wondering, what is a Tou and why Mai? The names Mai and Tou are two of the most common names in the Hmong culture, similar to Muhammad, Fatima, Juan, and Maria. Tou is a wordplay to Tou. Mai is a wordplay to Mai. Hence, the guest dedicates a letter to my daughter, son, partner, or whoever. Hello, 안녕하세요. My name is Sai. I'm your podcast host for the Letters to My Podcast. Welcome, where I get the privilege to capture, reflect, and share stories. I'm a licensed mental health social worker. I work in mobile crisis where I respond to individuals who are suicidal, who are sad, among other things. I'm proud to be Hmong. We are a small and mighty ethnic group from Southeast Asia. We came to the United States due to genocide and helping the Americans fight in the Vietnam War. Identities are important because they represent us. I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, I'm an organizer, politically engaged, a true progressive, and a storyteller. My last identity, I have to say, is probably one of the ones I've struggled with the most, and at the same time, am so proud of. It's a duality of pride and criticism. And my last identity is that I am among men. And those who may know me may say that I'm not your typical Hmong man, but at the end of the day, what the hell is a typical Hmong man anyways? What I do know is that in this podcast, I do want to talk about the idea of toxic masculinity, and hopefully we can explore a term that I found out. It's called aspirational masculinity together. Let me tell you a bit more about the podcast structure, who will be on it, and the role of vulnerability. The guests will read their letter. I will be asking questions from their past, their present, their future, and wisdom sharing. The interviews will last 45 minutes or more. Season 1 will be Hmong only, and then the subsequent season will be open to all. Now, the podcast is a reflection of my lived experience. The podcast reflects my Hmong culture, our heritage, our historical tapestry, and our diaspora in America. Next, I'll be talking about the role of vulnerability in the Letters to My Podcast. I believe we all need to talk about our vulnerabilities because it leads to healing. And I guarantee you, nothing good ever comes from keeping things in. Tell me the last time that worked. And that's why the courageous guest writes an old school letter and transforms it into the spoken word, which are so powerful. Again, I'm truly grateful for you all listening and opening your ears to all the courageous conversation that you get to hear this season. I'm excited for it. I've already done the interviews, so I'm excited for you all to listen to it. Get ready for the guest to Sa Sol, which translates in our language to send message. Again, Sa Sol, to send message by the way of letters that speak and stories that heal. Here's our next guest. Enjoy vulnerable listening. Bye. Zhong, everyone. Welcome to the first season of Letters to My Podcast. Today, we have a special guest, and I'm so excited for you all to meet with her. We somewhat grew up together in Minneapolis. I knew of her and always respected her work, so I wanted to welcome everyone to introduce Jewel Lee Grande. Today, she's going to be writing a letter to a loved one, so I want you all to hear this special conversation and just listen to Jewel's storytelling. Jewel is a filmmaker and a community connector who elevates under her perspective and experiences. Her work was aired on World Channel and PBS digital platform. Her short film, On All Fronts, received honorable mentions for the Lani Deng Award for Social Justice Documentary and was an opening episode of a series nominated for a Daytime Emmy. Her fellowships include True False Confluence, PBS Accelerator for Diverse Voices, Cartenquin Diverse Voices, and Media Justice. Jewel has spent over a decade as a community worker and educator supporting youth, family, and underrepresented storytellers. She serves in various community groups, including Waterers, who work to decolonize philanthropy and inspire community-driven, participatory, and truth-based giving. Jewel, those are awesome social justice things. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. So Jewel, when you heard about this podcast, what did you think?
I thought it was a really great idea. I know you had mentioned it to me when you were ideating, and I thought the idea of having a Hmong male social worker driven podcast talking about difficult topics within the Hmong community and in adjacent communities just sounded really amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and that's definitely one of the goals. We really want to push like the just story talk and talk about our taboo and just bring the stories out because we all know what happens when we internalize and keep things in. So today we're going to start off with a letter reading. Jewel, we would love the guests would love to hear who you dedicated your letter to, and if you can share and read the letter to us, that would be great.
I dedicate my letter to my daughter, Leonore. I've learned that anything, whether it be materials, ideas, or relationships, is worth only what meaning you give to it. I've been the smart one, the successful one, carrying the titles and accolades given by other people. But in all of that celebration, I realized I wasn't celebrating. I was who others wanted me to be, and so much of what I'd done up to that point was predetermined by the expectations of other people. It was never for myself. While others rejoiced, I was suffering. When you, yourself, don't find the meaning in something, it becomes really heavy to carry. For me, I hit my rock bottom. I took a hard dissection of my life. What does all of this mean to me? Why am I here? And what do I want out of this life? Only then did I start to discover the first pebbles of the path I needed to take in life. Present realities. No one has all the answers. Anyone who says they do is lying. My present reality is that I am still asking questions. I'm still finding and forging my way. I've learned that it's important to practice humility and gentleness with yourself. Even when everything seems to be going the way it needs to, life happens. Life always happens. You shift, you change, you grow. And your road needs to change direction, even if ever so slightly. In my mid-30s, I feel grateful, even for the challenges. My career blossomed enough that it brought both positive and negative energy, and I realized where I did and didn't want it to go. I connected with my own queerness for the first time and got to know parts of myself that I was a stranger to. My father passed, and it opened the door to a lot of realizations about generational trauma, family, and healing. I continue to be called upon to become a healer, and I get closer and closer to finding the answer to this calling to take a leap of faith. This is a year of struggle and transition for me. No one stays the same. When we are open to learning from the world, we're always changing as human beings. To stay the exact same person in the same place causes suffering. To take in the world, to fight, to heal, to shift, to change directions, to listen to your intuition, to push through the struggle and find your own way. It's worth it, even if it's just for the adventure. Although I'm in this weird place of discovering myself in this phase of life, redefining what any of this means to me, I feel more myself than ever. My future aspiration. Looking to the future, I aspire to continue finding my place in community, and the world, and in the spiritual universe. With time, my place may change. I may change. I hope that I have the people, the internal fortitude, I wish to share this wisdom to you. We are remnants of an exploded star's dust, dispersed and repurposed into beings that exist in this world for a beautiful moment in time. We are one another, sharing atoms and air. I am you, you are me, connected and disconnected all at once. I hope you stay curious. I hope you allow yourself to shift, grow, feel, learn, make mistakes, fall down, fall apart, pick yourself up, and put yourself back together again in the ways that actually serve you. I hope you let the wind point you in the right direction and let your inner voice guide your path. I hope when you feel shame and guilt, you listen to it and learn. I hope when you feel joy, peace, connection, you follow its warmth. I hope that when you are heartbroken or angry, you stay curious about it. I hope you stay gentle with yourself, because there's no such thing as perfection or success. There's only where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Even in that journey, sometimes staying still is exactly where we need to be. When our bodies disintegrate back into the universe, maybe once again coming together to a home that becomes a new star. When our spirits rejoin a realm that our physical selves cannot comprehend, we will be exactly where we need to be. So in this short time we have in this lifetime, make what you will of it all. This is a letter to my Leonore.
Jewel, that was a wonderful, wonderful letter that you wrote to your daughter. Like, it's very empowering, and like you gave history about your life and uplifting statements and like self-love, self-compassion. It's very powerful, and your experiences with grief and so forth. So great job writing this letter. I can't wait until she goes up and read it.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll see if she thinks I'm lame or not when she reads
it. When you were writing this letter, because you put a lot of emotions in there, because I consider my first impression reading, I was like, oh my God, Joy's writing me a poetic novel. And it was like giving me inspiration and the remnants of an exploding star, how we're all connected and disconnected at the same time, really was powerful. So to you, what was your experience writing this?
I think it was almost meditative. I feel like this year has been a year of change and shift, and I've taken a lot of time to reflect and trying to figure out and understand my place in the world. And so this was really great in that, like, it put into words some of the things that I had been reflecting on.
Exactly. And then just for all you listeners, this is the power of self-reflection paired with writing and storytelling. So A, it's like thinking. B, you're writing it, whether it's typing it or pen to paper, and then you're processing it. It helps you have better self-reflection as well. And you talked about goals and so forth. That's very powerful. So Joe, I think the listeners would like to listen a little bit more about your letter dedication from your past experience.
Jewel Lee Grande. Okay,
Jewel, this is the past experiences. The first question is, what dreams did you have when you were younger, whether of a certain age? It doesn't have to connect to what you're doing now, but it's just more just telling Lenore, like, hey, these are the dreams my mother had and so forth, or something that is part of the storytelling, if you have any.
Yeah. When I was younger, I actually don't remember what my dreams were. And I think a lot of it, if you're thinking about like career dreams or whatever material dreams, I didn't have a lot. I mean, my family and I, we grew up in poverty, so we had very little to begin with. And we lived in a heavily Black and brown neighborhood, went to a very Black and brown school where other people were around poverty line or lower. So for me, when I would dream about the future, I think the only thing I really wanted was to be happy. And a lot of my elders and teachers and everyone would kind of drill into us what success looks like. And I was also, to a lot of people's surprise, I did really well in school. So people drilled in this dream of college to me, even though I had no idea what college was, no understanding. I didn't have anyone in my life who had gone to college. But because everyone around me was like, you're going to make it into college, just keep working hard. That was my dream. And whenever there were conversations about money, everyone would be like, don't worry about that. Just study hard. And so that was my dream. It was just to go to college, and I didn't know what would come after that. As I got older, of course, I thought about different like career routes or things I might want for my life. I didn't dream about like what kind of house I wanted, or I never dreamt about marriage or anything like that. The only thing I dreamt about was actually, honestly, becoming a mother one day.
That's right.
So I wanted to be a mom one day. I knew that was my biggest dream, and then wanted to go to college and do something great with my life. And I did not know what when I was that young.
Right.
And, yeah.
Well, I think those are wonderful dreams, because dreams are part of aspiration. So, but before we go on to more of that, I would like to hear about what broke you and then what molded you. I know those are intense questions, but those are pivotal moments in our lives when you're in childhood, and it could be teenage, childhood, or early adulthood.
Yeah, I think a couple things broke me and in turn molded me. Like, I think when I was young, there was a moment when I realized that my father's violence was not normal. And I think that broke my heart, because he was like my favorite person on earth. And throughout my childhood, I sort of had to step up and become a protector in the household, thinking because I was like his favorite child, supposedly, and we got along so well, thinking that like, oh, if I stood up to protect others, he would stop. And of course that didn't stop. But I think that also helped to shape me, because it helped me understand what I believe in and what I'm willing to do for the things I believe in. And on the flip side, my father had also amazing qualities that helped to shape me, right? He was the one who introduced me to Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and like taught me the importance of learning about the histories of the people around us and our own history. So he would talk to me about Hmong history and how we're here in the U.S., and talk to me about Black history, Native history. He would introduce me to Princess Diane and when she died, and talk about her importance in the monarchy, right? So, and like, it was really through him that I understood that it was important to have something to believe in and to stand for, and to understand where you came from and where others came from. And he just was not prepared that the first thing I would really stand up for would be to stand up against him. And that obviously complicated our relationship. But I think that was something big that broke me and in many ways molded me.
Yeah.
And another thing being, I had mentioned already that when I was younger, I was a high achieving kid, which surprised people, because before I went to school, I knew zero English. I was born here in the U.S., but obviously grew up in a Hmong family, only interacted with family members, knew no English. And then on top of that, I was extremely shy, and I didn't know it at the time. But when I got older, I learned that I had selective mutism, which meant that anytime I went anywhere other than my immediate family's home, and I was around anyone other than them, I was completely silent. Like, I could not speak. I was too afraid. And so in school for years, I would never speak. And so teachers wondered if I had a learning disability, if there was something wrong with me, if I was mute. And
there's always something with the other, right? Or like, what's wrong with that person? So, but there's nothing.
Yeah. But then it would surprise them, because I would still do all my tasks and do it well. And eventually, like, with the help of, I don't know what her role officially was. Maybe she was a social worker. Maybe she
might have been a para, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah. Professional, sorry.
Yeah. So eventually I did start speaking, and I think it became clear to everyone that I was actually...
How old were you when you was that?
I want to say second grade is when I started speaking. Yeah. And I think it became clear to everyone that I was actually a very advanced reader and writer. And I think that's why people started to feel like, oh my gosh, you're going to go to college one day. You're going to get a full ride someday. So that was my dream, right? That was like, okay, I don't know what this college thing is, but as I get older, I'm going to go. I'm going to fulfill this dream. when I hit my senior year of high school, I had struggled with depression quite a bit in high school since middle school. And my senior year, I realized that I was going to graduated valedictorian of my high school. I got a full ride to college, and I got like all these things that people had pushed me to want for myself. But when I was there, I thought, what is this it?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of broke me because I'm like, this is all that I strived for, but it doesn't feel that great, you know? And like realizing that for myself, I don't actually care about the titles. I don't actually care about getting the attention. I'm someone who prefers not to have a ton of attention on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked back at my life and realized like, oh, I had followed all the rules. I was for the most part, a goody two shoes and followed all the rules and like studied hard, got straight A's, like graduated valedictorian, full ride to college, but I wasn't happy.
Right. Because
And-
someone did that path for you, it sounded like.
Yeah, so it was like other people had dreamt that for me. Not that I didn't
Dreamt
want
it.
it myself,
Right.
but I think that it really challenged my understanding of success because that didn't feel like success to me, right? Like having a title,
Right.
having this path to have a high paying job, that did not feel like success. It felt like failure in some ways. And I
Damn.
think it shaped me because it helped me to reimagine what I really wanted for my life and what success actually means.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are really important experiences that shaped us. I think some things I got from there is like resilience, self-awareness, and those moments when you just have that dark, whatever that feeling is, I call it darkness sometimes, emptiness, a void. And it's good that you're talking about this letter because it's self-love. We can fulfill a void. So talking about that, Jewel.
Sorry, I think you are frozen.
Okay, Joel. So thank you so much for talking to us about that. We're going to transition a little bit. We are going to transition to talking about regrets and if you had any. And regrets are the should haves, the could haves, the why didn't I wish I would have, or oh, if only this happened, then I would have been here. Do you have any of these experiences, Joel, that you'd like to share with the guests?
Yeah, I think, it's hard to have regrets because that means you regret being where you are now, because you can only get to where you are now by having gone through all that you've gone through. So
Right.
even though like there are things that sure I wish could have happened differently, I understand that it may have needed to happen that way to help me become the person I am today or to get to where I am. And I feel like I don't call them light regrets, but like I look back and definitely feel like I could have been gentler on myself, like not have pushed myself so hard.
Actually, Joel, let's talk about that. What was those self-talk? Name a couple.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I mean, like even thinking about like reading success, whatever success means to other people, right? Like I worked so hard to get the straight A's, to get the scholarships, to get to college. And that was in many ways like pushing myself so hard to be perfect in order to be this image of who others wanted me to be. And so I look back and I do wish that I could have been gentler on myself, given myself more grace, given myself leeway.
What would have been your self-talk? What would you say to yourself?
Yeah, I would have told myself, like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's okay to let some things go. It's okay to not get perfect marks, whether it's on a test or a project. It's okay to not show up exactly as others want you to. It's okay to take a step back and dissect and reflect on who you want to be, even
So
if it's
important.
different from what others want to be. And yeah, I did learn much later in life, just 2 years ago, that I'm also neurodivergent. So
All right. Welcome to the club. I have ADHD. What do you have?
according to my doctor, it's very severe. But yeah, so even though I got
You could thrive and survive this long, Jewel.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because even though I got like straight A's and everyone, like all my friends considered me the smart kid, like they would be like, oh, you're so lucky that it comes so easily to you. And I'd be like, it doesn't feel like it comes easy.
Right.
Like, it feels like I have to work extra
Right.
hard. And so I didn't know that I was neurodivergent, and
Right,
I was
right.
working overtime to even get the straight
Exactly.
A's. And I think in many ways that caused or contributed to my depression, and that, like, I was trying to operate in a very neurotypical way, but I was actually neurodivergent.
Right.
And I struggled, right? And I wasn't happy. I wasn't really myself. So, yeah. So I feel like I would just encourage younger me to
Yeah.
give yourself a little grace.
Give yourself a little grace. I can relate. So I have ADHD too, and it took me a long time to diagnose it. I'm a social worker, and I knew I had it 4 or 5 years. I didn't get it done to afterwards, right? Yeah, so it was bad. And then I was always bad at writing. And lo and behold, I'm starting a podcast about fucking writing, So I'm shocked by that. Like, I hate and dislike because similar to you, I overcompensated. So the example I use is driving your car 100 miles per hour for Joua, let's say 18 years, right? So that you will burn out. And therefore, the reactions to that is anxiety, stress, and depression, what you went through. So thank you for sharing us that. Thank you so much for talking about grace and just giving yourself grace. I think a lot of your actions in your life has been like benefiting yourself. Like, can you talk more about like things that you were happy about, the decisions that you made that you want to share with Lenore? And yeah, please share it with us.
So I feel like I'm proud of myself that I never have been super quick to cave into peer pressure, and I can really just dissect a situation and think about it thoroughly before I move forward. Keep thinking about childhood. I don't know why I'm not. I feel like my 20s are like blank to me. Yeah, I will say that even though when it comes to like academics, career, I was like listening to other people, I think that one thing that I was really proud of myself for was that I didn't really give in to peer pressure. Yeah. So I feel like I've always been a pretty independent person and independent thinker. So I think I still am. I think as I got older, I've become more dependent on other people, and I've definitely in the last few years tried to like bring myself more into independence. Not that dependency is bad. I think it's great to have people to rely on. But when I think of independence, I think of like being able to critically think about something without others' opinions influencing you. Of course, taking others' opinions into account and respecting others' opinions, but really thinking for yourself, does this make sense or not? So, I mean, I'm proud of the fact that I've always been able to do that pretty well, whether it be in social groups or whether it comes to community, political issues, whatever it might be. So,
and if you did cave into peer pressure, what would have been that effect on you?
I think that it would have felt like physically heavy in my chest. And I think that it would have felt really difficult on me because I think a part of me would have known like, oh, that wasn't being true to myself. And that doesn't feel good in my body. So yeah, I did think of something else that I'm proud of myself for. That's more fun in my 20s.
Say it.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the being like very independent. So I feel like whenever I have a goal, I can be very impulsive, and I love like kind of just doing things on a whim. But when it's like when it's a longer goal or longer dream, I do plan it years in advance.
Yes.
And so one thing that I had always wanted was I wanted to backpack solo through Southeast Asia. And the thought of that sounded amazing. I didn't want to go with anyone else. It was just me. And so for years, I like saved up money. And when I was transitioning from being a community worker to being more of a filmmaker media person full time, that felt like the appropriate time to do that. For half a year, I just went to Southeast Asia. I did whatever I wanted. Of course, I did the research, but I went to whatever cities or towns I wanted, like connected with family members I had never met. And I love that I was able to do that because I enjoy my own company and I'm not afraid to do things by myself. And I love it. Yeah. And also just being brave enough to take a leap of faith and do something that you really want for yourself.
Yeah. How long did you go and what country did you go to? I think the listeners would like to know.
Yeah. So I went for about half a year. I was hoping I was hoping longer than that. If I'm honest, while I was abroad, I think it really burst my American bubble and opened things up for me in a way I was not expecting. And so I did not want to come back. Of course, ran out of money, needed to come back. But so, I was gone for about half a year. I started in Thailand, went to Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, back to Thailand, then to the Philippines, and then did a few weeks in China. So
it's amazing. Yeah, those moments of the glass, I concur, Jewel. If my study abroad trip to Mexico my freshman year was pivotal because it taught me that there's a world outside, there's cultures outside. It's just amazing to see this. Like, there's so much more things outside. So I think this is powerful, and these definitely shape you to who you are today. So we appreciate that. You talk about these pathways. Jewel, everyone's story is unique, and thank you for sharing us. So let's transition on to your present reality. What are your identities?
Yeah, I mean, right now my identities are a member of an interracial family. I identify as queer, identify as neurodivergent, filmmaker, storyteller, community connector. I mean, mom, of course. Gosh, there's so many different identities
Hmong
that you could touch on. I mean, obviously Hmong, of course, though, a very complicated Hmong, right? And that has to do with it being interracially married and elders being like, oh, you're part of their people now.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more, but yeah.
That's good. Thank you, filmmaker. So, Joe, you talked about all those identities, but there's also one identity that I think that would be important for you to discuss, because it is very common in the Hmong culture, and we have seen various marriages that have been shunned upon due to specific races. So can you talk more about that and your experience in the Hmong culture and your experience being in an interracial marriage?
Yeah, I mean, my experience is, I mean, when I was younger, I dreamt of being a mom, but I never dreamt about getting married. So I didn't think marriage was for me, if I'm quite honest. So I dated whoever I connected with. And they were like, since middle school, they were folks of different races and cultures, ethnicities. And that's always been the case for me. Of course, dating Hmong folks, but also dating like Black, Tibetan, Latino, etc. So with my partner, Brian, we met when we were 18. And of course, I was thinking, oh, this isn't going to last. And joke's on me.
Right.
Yeah, so we've been together.
Funny.
Yeah, we've been together almost 17 years now. And in the beginning, when we were together, I always had a rule where for the first year, I'm not introducing someone to my family because if it falls apart, there's no point in going through all the drama that's going to bring.
Wise.
Yeah, so because when it comes to a Hmong family, when your parents are Hmong refugees, the pushback when you're dating outside of the community is really
Can you say
harsh.
some like specific words? Because if it's a newer generation, I don't think they will hear this. If it's an older OG generation like us, they need to hear this again. So what does it?
Yeah, so like, for example, so my high school boyfriend was Tibetan and we dated for about 2 years. Of course, my family didn't know about him till the second year. And at that point, I would get so much pushback. Like, why are you doing this? You need to dump him. He's not Hmong. You need to date a Hmong person. And like, my parents would go and have other elders come and talk to me.
Y'all had that?
Yeah. And so it was just like, whatever. And there were like sometimes arguments over it. And I would be like, why are you so stressed? I don't even ever want to get married. So you don't have to worry about it. Of course, I was an angsty teenager too, so it was a lot of arguments. In college, I met Brian. We were together for a while.
Before you go on, hold on that. I just want to comment on it. Jewel, I think just having that whether it's societal pressure or push can be very difficult. But I just want to tell the listener, this is something I heard from one of my social work mentors, and she's Hmong too as well. She said that Hmong people, like take off, meaning they yell at you, they say do this, don't do this, marry Hmong only, and so forth. And this is why she said that all that comes from a place of fear, a fear of oppression, because our people has been oppressed, and genocide too as well. So they do that to make you scared so you don't step out of there. They do that to protect you and so forth. And that's always a struggle in our culture because we're not direct. And then I was like, Mom, just say you love me, but they don't. The pat on the head. I can definitely relate, and also want to tell the listeners that our parents, whose generation, who did not grow into social media or know what depression, anxiety is just their way to communicate. Give them some grace. That's all I can say, because I had to struggle through that too. But I don't know if you have any comments on that, Joel.
Yeah, absolutely. My parents, whenever I'd like debate with them, because I was a curious person. I like to understand why people think the way they do.
That's right.
So whenever people would say things to me, I'd be like, why? Why do you think that? Why do you believe that? And they get so frustrated. And the answer often is like, okay, we're yelling at you because we love you. And as I get older, of course, I understand that more and more. And of course, I haven't mentioned, but I've been called upon to become a traditional shaman. And in my efforts to reconnect with spirituality and learn about it, and also the pushback that I've gotten because my partner is not Hmong, has taught me a lot. And it's exactly like you said. It is so much of it really is the fear of being oppressed and being judged, being looked down upon. And so I know that when I met Brian almost 17 years ago now, we started dating. For me, it was just like, oh, this is just fun. I'm in college. I'm having a good time. Like, I never want to get married. And they met him. And of course.
Wait, did they meet him after the year marker?
No, so we didn't go past the year marker because what happened was I got appendicitis and I ended up in the hospital. And so Brian wanted to come see me at the hospital, but it was like, well, if he comes alone, then it's clear what's happening. So at first we strategized so that he could come with my Hmong friends and be like, oh, these are just friends.
That's good. That's smart.
And then he started coming on his own. And then we were like, okay, my parents aren't dumb. They know. I was literally in the hospital and I was like, this is the chance to tell them they can't yell at me because I'm recovering from surgery.
Strategy, y'all. Strategy.
So I told them. They didn't yell at me for months. And then once I recovered, then they started lecturing.
With that pent up energy, I'm sure.
Yeah. So they would lecture me, and then they would encourage other elders to lecture me. So we had like a big relative Thanksgiving, and during the speech, they paused to lecture me in front of everyone.
How long was that?
I don't know. I left.
That's so wrong. Good.
It was so messed up because I'm like, oh, you're shaming me in front of everyone. And this is so messed up that they're like literally lecturing me in front of everyone saying, oh, I need to like find a Hmong man and like stop what I'm doing. And so I just like snuck out the back. I'm like, I'm good. Bye.
Smart. Yeah.
And so
and it's also, you shouldn't be taking a beating to, whether it be traumatized as taking a beating, not beating, but being punched without being able to respond. In that case, you would never ever been able to respond. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just left, and it's not that I was never open to understanding why, but it was more so that I was curious. I was like, so why do you think this way? I would like to understand, but I think a lot of elders see that as you challenging them instead of seeing that as curiosity. So I think a lot of my elders just thought you're just being disobedient and you're challenging me. I'm like, no, I genuinely want to understand why you don't think it's okay for me to date outside of this culture. There was at some point finally an answer that my mom gave me that made sense. And she said, like, well, I think about one day when you marry a husband, how am I going to communicate with him? I don't speak English very well. I speak Hmong, and I want a relationship with my son-in-law. So if you marry someone who's not Hmong, how am I supposed to have a relationship with them? And so that like really struck a chord for me, because I'm like, oh, it's about that desire for human connection, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And trying to help her understand that you can still have that even if there's a language barrier. My parents eventually gave up because my dad has said to me that I should become a lawyer because I make really great arguments, which I do. So one day I said to my parents, I'm like, look, parents, you gotta stop this nonsense. Think about it. Like, think about me, your daughter, objectively, right? Like, sure, I'm smart, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But I'm also very argumentative, right? Like, I talk back, I question things, and you guys hate it. So think about a Hmong mother or father-in-law wouldn't they hate me? Like, I would not be your typical Hmong yam.
I love that.
Right? I would not like do the dishes and like cook for everyone. I would not. I'm like, I can't do that. And so I think it was the first time my mom's like, oh shit, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, like,
I
from that
love
day
that.
on, yeah, my parents stopped giving me
I'm
crap.
dying. I love the
Yeah.
logic because like you have Hmong, and if I go to a Hmong family, it might be similar. So you just connect those dots. So
Yeah, and I also pointed out to them, I'm like, and look at Brian's family. At that point, Brian and I were not planning on getting married, and I was still against marriage. But what I pointed out was, look at Brian's family, though. They embrace me. They love me. They treat me with respect. They're completely happy with who I am. And isn't that what you would want for me? So, and yeah, they should.
well, but that means that they couldn't answer back, y'all. So
Yeah, they could not answer back. And then also I pointed out to them, I'm like, you want a Hmong son-in-law so bad. Unfortunately, at the time, their only Hmong son-in-law, like, never showed up to family gatherings, never helped my parents out, never talked to my parents. And I'm like, having a Hmong son-in-law doesn't guarantee that you'll have a relationship with him. Whereas, like, here's Brian actually coming over, wanting to, like, have conversations with you, giving you gifts, you know?
so
like,
sweet, right?
And so, like, he's actually here, and we're not married. You know, we're not even planning on getting married. So,
right.
so I think that, like, helped them shift their thinking. And then after that, it became a lot of, like, okay, Joe, when are you going to marry Brian? When are you going to marry Brian? Like, you're getting old.
he got the approval. They got the approval.
Yeah.
Or is it really the old thing? Which one?
Yeah, I don't know. I did later discover that my dad was still secretly telling other people that, like, oh, I don't approve.
Yeah.
Except to me, he was saying, yeah, I approve.
Yeah. That's progress. But
yeah. But I also learned that a lot of Hmong elders, they will say things to other elders that they think the elders want to hear, even if they don't believe it.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, I met this elder once, and we were talking about queerness, and they were talking about one of their grandchildren was queer, and they're saying, like, you know what, that's okay, but, like, to other elders, they're going to be like, oh, that's wrong, because that's what other elders want to hear, right? So, like, that really weird dynamic.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Yeah, but as Brian and I, when we got,
but it goes, wait, sorry, before you go, but it goes to, like, group think too as well, to preserve your culture, because the more we are likely to do something that we believe is successful, the more we can maintain that culture. But yeah, sorry, that's it.
Yeah,
go ahead,
exactly.
You were saying?
Yeah, and I think it was hard for my parents to understand how much I loved and valued Hmong culture, because
That's right.
I had a ton of Hmong friends, but I also had a lot of friends from other races. My partners, I think the last Hmong partner I had was like 9th grade, right? So they just thought, oh, you hate Hmong men, you hate Hmong people. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, a majority of my closest friends were Hmong men, you know?
Exactly.
Cis, het, Hmong men.
yes, right.
And so for me, I'm like, it's not that at all. Like, it's like they say, because we love you, we criticize you. I'm like, because I love Hmong community and Hmong culture, I criticize it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to toxic masculinity, yes, I criticize it. When it comes to cultural norms that are harmful, yes, I criticize it. But I also celebrate the other things, right? So I think it was hard for them to understand that. And also because of how Hmong culture sees marriage, it really worked against me, because Hmong people believe that when a girl is born, they're born into their birth family. And when they're married, they then completely leave, physically and spiritually leave their birth family and join their husband's family, right? So now they're officially not a member of their birth family. They're a member of their husband's family, right? So as a result, I learned that when I got married, immediately people are like, oh, now you're part of his community. You're not part of our community anymore. And that's what elders thought. They're like, now spiritually, you're automatically going to become Christian now, like his family. You're automatically his people now. Yeah. And whenever I'd like show interest in learning Hmong traditions, elders would look at me kind of funny, like, why? You know, like, why? I'm like, what do you, why?
Yeah. I know. And I'm helping you preserve this. I'm sure you're filming too. So yeah.
Yeah, so there was like this disconnect with how the elders think and how we as young people think. It's like, it doesn't matter who we marry, we're still who we are. And it's such a big gender issue too, because it's like, oh, women have to become whatever their husbands are. It's like, that's not the case. So like the reason why Brian and I ended up together is because he would never in a million years even think to pressure me into becoming someone he wants me to be, right? Like,
yeah, I'm sure.
And allowing me the independence to choose and determine for myself who I am.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that as I got older, I did realize though how much of it is rooted in fear, because especially talking about Hmong spirituality, as I learned more about it, as I talked to my elders about my potential path to become a shaman, a lot of people were against it primarily because my partner is not Hmong. And it would always go back to, but what does he think? How does he feel? Is he okay with this? And I'd be like, what do you mean is he okay with this? Like, he's okay with what I choose for myself. You know? And like, it was really hard for the elders to comprehend that, especially elder women who were forced to grow up a certain way. And also, when it came time and the elders realized Jewel's on this journey, whether or not we like it, I think everyone's like, oh, I think she's going to become a shaman whether or not we like it. And so they sat us down, me and Brian, and gave us like advice. And they're like, okay, Jewel, if and when you become a shaman, put your altar in the basement because you have friends from all sorts of races. When they come, then they won't see it and they won't judge you. And it was like this aha moment where it's like, you're operating out of fear that Brian's going to disrespect me for practicing my culture, that his family's going to disrespect me for practicing my culture, that my friends who are not Hmong are going to look down upon me for this. And it really is rooted in their experiences of being discriminated against, being talked down to, being, like mistreated. And it really does come from fear. And I think that, like, I had pushed so hard against them to try to, like, figure out how I can preserve my culture in my own life. And I think that it really is from a place of fear and giving them grace, knowing that a lot of our elders never had the luxury of an education, right? So, so I think that really helped me to empathize and sympathize with them, and also like open the door to be like, look, it can look differently than how you've experienced it. And even having Brian there asking questions, like genuinely being like, so what does the shaman's assistant do? What are the actual steps? What are things they're responsible for? Like just showing that, no, like there are people, yes, there are people who've been harmful to our community members, and there are people who are supportive and nurturing, right? And in my life, I have surrounded myself with people who are nurturing and supportive. I don't surround myself with people who would mistreat others because they're different. So
right, exactly.
I had mentioned I was never interested in marriage. I think just unfortunately growing up in a family with a lot of violence, and seeing other relationships around me that weren't healthy, I just thought, why would I ever want that?
Damn,
so yeah, I'm like, I want connection that's genuine.
Exactly.
I want authentic relationships, and my family is whatever we decide it is.
That's right.
And that just was so powerful to me.
Oh yeah.
That like I had been taught my whole life, like this is what it means to be Hmong, and specifically a Hmong woman. This is the box within you which you have to fit. Yeah, and I had been breaking out of that box for a long time, and and people had been essentially challenging my Hmongness for a long time. But seeing that and realizing, oh no, it doesn't matter where you are. You can go to the homeland, Laos, and meet Hmong women. And I also like met a ton of young Hmong women through like the Yao organization, which supports Hmong women, and just like seeing these young women who are trying to get an education for themselves, trying to have such great, strong personalities and so critical of what's happening around them, and realizing that there, of course, is no one way to be a Hmong woman or to have a marriage, right? Your marriage can be whatever you and your partner decided to be. So I think that really changed things for me. And on that trip, I decided I'm ready to become a mother in the next few years. And because I'm a long-term planner, I'm like, I'm going to start planning now. And a few years down the line, I'll become a mom. And wouldn't it be great to have an amazing partner to
Wouldn't
do
it?
this parenthood
Right.
thing with? And so on one of our
Right.
video calls, I said to Brian, I'm like, hey, look, I've decided I'm going to become a mom. The biggest dream I've ever had in like
Wow.
a few years. And I would love for you to be on this journey with me. But I'm like, but if you decide this is not for you, that's okay. That's okay. And we can part ways. And he's like, stop overthinking. We'll talk about it when I meet you in the Philippines.
Oh,
So
there
he
you go.
met me in the Philippines and proposed, which is actually part of the reason why I came back early.
That makes sense. Okay. Look at that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So of course, we got married. We did the traditional Hmong wedding. We did our own version, our own like kind of Americanized wedding. We had my daughter a year or two after that. And it's been really it's been such an amazing honor to raise like a biracial, multicultural child, because it really is like, there is no right or wrong way. I mean, there is a wrong way to raise children, of course, but like
culturally and upbringing, I hear what you mean.
yeah, but there is no one right way to be a parent or to raise a child, right? And so it's been so much fun to like think of like, who is this tiny human being we're bringing into this world, and what are all of her different identities, and how can we nurture that and show her that she can decide what that means for herself, right? And of course, in a lot of my preparation in the years prior, I did research on like the experience of being a mixed race child is like, and like understanding that a lot of mixed race people, they are told that they're not fully anything. They're not fully part of any community, right? So even though they feel like they're fully part of multiple communities, they get told they're not, and they're kind of in this strange gray area. And so that was something I did not want for my child. And I was like, nope, my child is fully Hmong. My partner is Salvadorian, and she is fully Salvadorian. And growing up here in America, she's also fully American. So how can we nurture and celebrate all three cultures, right? She's biracial, multicultural, because there's American culture thrown in there, right? And so it's been a lot of trial and error and trying new things, and also just going back to giving grace. Like, I think I try to give myself grace in that, like, there is no way it's impossible to be a perfect parent, and understanding that we're human, and giving my child grace. Obviously, like, I think it's been really helpful to not be like, oh, we expect her to show up a certain way. We expect her to practice her Hmongness in this way, or to practice her Salvadorianness in this way. Obviously, we introduced her to things like we're going to Hmong New Year, and like, she's still pretty young. She's 5, right? So she's at the age where she's starting to understand things that she didn't. And so she's like starting to like appreciate things that she hadn't before, because she didn't really understand it. And like helping her to understand for the first time, like, this is our cultural clothes, right? And guess what? Your friend who's from like the Puerto Rican culture, they have their own clothes. And like, we actually went to see her friends perform like traditional Puerto Rican dance and song,
yeah,
and be like, that is from their culture. Isn't that amazing, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's been really cool.
Joe, I just want to add in a comment, something that you talked about. Hold on. I lost it. Okay, to come back. Okay, okay. So you talked about the experiences of raising a multiracial and biracial child and so forth, and it made me thought about our parents coming to the United States. Like, there's like
Salvador.
there is no guidebook for raising a half Salvadorian, half Hmong child. And similar to our Hmong people, there's no guidebook or roadmap coming from the refugees and or Laos to America and the migration. So I think the thing is, how have you gone through this path, whether it's unknown, uncharted, and so forth, and think in the context in terms of like passing wisdom or letting other folks who have gone through your experiences and giving them encouragement, I guess, through your story.
Yeah. I think like, as we've had to give our parents grace raising us in a completely different world that they were unfamiliar with. And we're also so different from them, being Hmong American.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
And like, of course, there's generational and cultural clashes, and we've had to work through them. We're still working through them, but having to give each other grace, knowing that like we're different generations and different people. And I feel like as I'm raising my child, it's like remembering to give myself grace and my child grace, and that like there is no right way to do this. There is no roadmap, whether it be to parenting a biracial multicultural child or to for her being a biracial multicultural child, right? And so I think what really helped me is that I love kids. Like I love kids. Like people will tell you that when I go to a party with a lot of people I don't know, I feel way more comfortable hanging out with kids and talking to them than I do the adults. Like I
It's
just
so
love
fun.
kids. Yeah. So then like just getting to know other kids and all their different personalities, and then like talking to their parents and asking their parents about some of their like parenting strategies and values and approaches has been really eye-opening, because there is no like one way to do it. And there's also no perfect way to do it. And when we talk about language, for example, right, we wanted Leonor to speak Hmong and Spanish and English. And we're like, that's an uphill battle. That's challenging. So, but yeah, but then also I ran into an old friend from high school, and she had 2 daughters at the time. And I learned that in order to teach her daughter's Hmong, she had to pretend like she didn't know English. That was the only way they could learn. Even though her husband was also Hmong. Yeah, so she had to pretend that she didn't know English so that it would force her daughters to speak to her in Hmong. And that was the
Wait, for how
only way that
long?
they would learn.
How long did she
Like-
play that long game?
Oh, it was a long time. I think it was like 7 years until the older kid finally was like, wait a second. No way. You're like 6 or 7. So I'm like, if that's what it takes, like, then I don't think that Brian and I have a chance. Because we have to communicate to each other in English.
Yeah, in English, right.
Yeah, and there was a point in time when my mom lived with us, and then she's now living with my brothers, and now his mom lives with us. So, like we can't pull that off.
It's hard.
Yeah, but like,
But you could do it through immersion, like do media, do reading, do books, and immersion school if you have the resources for that. But yeah, this is hard, and it's uncharted. So damn.
Yeah, and it's like just knowing that 2 Hmong parents already found it really difficult to teach their children Hmong, like showed me that I need to have grace for myself and my child, because like we have no chance.
So Joel, thank you so much for talking about your experiences being an interracial marriage with yourself, with your husband, and also with the Hmong community. I want to wrap up a little bit about the interracial marriage aspects of it, and would like you to just tell individuals who may be experiencing this, or who is anticipating experiencing this, or who has not talked about this but know it's impending, in spite of, and give them motivation. In spite of this, I did this, and talk about what you were proud of, and just give them a word of encouragement.
Yeah, I'm proud of the fact that I didn't marry someone who was right for others, and I married someone who was right for me. And that like my partner, Brian, is so kind, so patient, so gentle of a human being, and is everything that I need to heal the parts of myself that didn't get to experience that in men growing up. Right. And is exactly the kind of father I want my daughter to have as a role model, or what type of men to surround herself with. So I don't regret that at all. And sometimes that person is not going to be within your culture or race, and that's completely great. You know, like it's great if they're in your culture. It's great if they're not.
Right.
Of course, there are cultural challenges and a lot of learning, but when you love someone, that's what you do. And when we think about family, there's like blood family, and then there's who you choose to be your family, whether that be who your spouse is, your children, or even friends that you choose to be family. So I'm happy with the family that I've chosen, and I'm proud of it. And I hope that for other people, knowing that I think that interracial marriage is going to continue being a challenge for many years to come, not just for Hmong people, for all other people.
Hey, exactly.
Even interreligious relationships will continue to be a challenge, right? But I think that if you know you have the right person and you're absolutely on the same page, you have the same goals, the same values, and you really want to accomplish the same things with your family, then you just work through it and lean on each other. And I think it's worth it, because if you have the right person by your side, then it all works out in the end.
It definitely does. I think And I want to share it for Joel, and then I gotta send the song to Elton John, and someone else, I think Dua Lupe did a song called "Chosen Family," and it's just wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'll
It's
have to
powerful.
look it up.
Yep. And the reason I love it because it's my chosen family in New York City. I live in New York City, so they're my chosen family, so it's very powerful. And this is just me coming as my identity of among men and being born and raised in Minnesota, is that with interracial marriages, this is my personal opinion, you all, like I'm frustrated that among women, among men who are married outside race, that they get all the societal pressure. My bluntness is that it's closed mindset versus growth mindset. So I encourage you all to grow up, accept, be open, and people who don't like this, come talk to me or come talk to other people. So our goal is just to create love. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, one last thing too. I feel like in very traditional Hmong spaces, like a lot of these interracial families are just erased. Like me and my family, we don't get invited to family functions, sadly. That's just the reality. And that's the reality of a lot of like interracial, like Hmong interracial families. But the reality is there's so many of us. Like there's so many interracial families who have so much love and have their own communities. And so we exist proudly.
I know.
Whether or not we have the visibility.
That's right. And then my college friends were, all of them were Hmong, right? It was like three Hmong girls, and then me, and then the other guy was Kidu. The three Hmong girls was dating a Kidu guy, and then one was a May guy too as well. And then we were just a little group of interracial, and I was dating. No, I wasn't dating, but I wanted to date outside the race at that time. So I think that's how I had affinity with them. Okay. So Joel, thank you for sharing us about your experience being in interracial marriage. I wanted to transition regarding your career and the projects that you're working on. Can you tell us about a current passion that you're working on right now?
Yeah. Well, I am still working on my first feature documentary. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I've worked primarily on like short docs. And my feature, I've worked on for a long time because it's a personal documentary. Yeah, so there's a scholar named Marshall Gans who talks about the public narrative and how there's a story of self, a story of us, and a story of now. And so through learning that and teaching it as well, understanding that in order to tell other people's stories really well, you need to first know how to tell your own story. Well, so my story of self is this feature documentary I'm working on, which is called Spirited. And it's about my journey finding out that I've been chosen to become a traditional Hmong shaman and figuring out what that means when I feel like I am an agnostic person. I'm not a very spiritual or religious person.
Can you describe agnostic just in case?
Yeah, so being agnostic to me means that I am open to the idea that something exists, but without hard proof, I don't know that I can believe in it. But I am open to the idea that something does exist. I just don't know what it is. But when it comes to like specific religions, I've never felt like I resonated with any one religion. That said, through this film and through my journey to learn about what shamanism looks like, I have become so much more deeply connected to Hmong, like traditional Hmong spirituality. And so there's like two trajectories. There's the trajectory where there's a very strong chance that I could maybe become a shaman one day, or maybe not. And then there's me as a filmmaker telling the story. And that's exciting to me. For me, I got into filmmaking really for one reason, to elevate the voices of people who are either being misrepresented or underrepresented so that they can tell their own stories and shed light on their own truths, because we have mainstream media that loves to talk about folks who are historically marginalized and underrepresented and tell their stories for us. But we need to hear from those people directly. Spirited is a huge part of that, in that I feel like it's doing two big things. Externally, it's really giving people an inside look into the journey of the shaman, one that's not being told by like Grey's Anatomy, Doogie House, or House, right? Where it's like these white medical doctors are like, oh, what a strange practice, right?
Exactly. It's so foreign. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But it's like an insider look from Hmong Americans who are like, hey, we're straddling the line between these two cultures, and we
Yes.
are fully these two cultures, and how do we practice Hmong spirituality, and the real questions that this generation of Hmong Americans are asking about Hmong spirituality and real challenges, and just shedding light and humanizing us instead of othering us, right? And drawing people in on like how normal we are, even if we practice the spirituality that's like very
Right.
unique, like how normal we are and how normal it is in this like universal
Yeah.
search for like
Well, I love that
truth.
you're focusing on the humanity of us. So I
Yes.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one big thing. And I have shown samples of my work to different communities just to make sure that we're on the right track. And it was so beautiful when there was this young Oromo woman came up to me after a screening, and
Can you describe who or what culture that's from? Just for
yeah.
the guests?
So Oromo people are a minority group from Africa, and we have a pretty good community here in the Twin Cities. So after one of my screenings, a young Oromo woman came up and she just said to me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, your story resonates with me so much." So a lot of Oromo people are typically Muslim, and so she's Muslim, and she had this gorgeous hijab on. And even though our spiritual practices are so different, what really resonated with her was the human piece, right? What really resonated was being a young woman trying to find her place in the world and in spirituality, trying to grapple with these really tough conversations with gender role and all these other things, and having tough conversations with older generations, right? So
Yeah.
those things are so human because we all have that.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't matter what race or ethnicity
That's
you are.
that.
We all are constantly challenging our elders. We're all trying to find our own place in the world. So for me, that's like beautiful because it reminds people that, look, we're just people.
That's
And
it.
we have this amazing, unique spiritual practice that
Mhm.
you can learn a bit about. The other thing that I really like wanted to do with this project was internally within the Hmong community, really give way for knowledge that has been gatekept and conversations that have been prevented to happen, specifically around like how spirituality intersects with race, gender, and queerness. And because many of us know that as Hmong women, we're raised being told that you spiritually belong under your dad's household. He is the man of the house. And when you get married, then you spiritually belong under your husband's household. And the culture is very patriarchal. And what we are taught is that Hmong spirituality is very patriarchal. However, as I learned more about spirituality and had to unlearn some of my own ignorances, I discovered that that's actually not true at all. Spirituality is not gender-based.
Thank you.
Yeah, and once you go, like, I've had to challenge older shamans too, where they don't want to answer the question, but when they do, they will admit that yes, can be their own spiritual household. Women can be their own spiritual head of households. They can like do their own rituals at home. They don't need a man to do that, right?
Wait, I thought they were supposed to. The culture teaches us that. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, the spiritual practice is actually not patriarchal at all. And
Yeah.
so once you learn that, it
Mhm.
frees you up. Like you
It
realize
does.
that you're not beholden to that. And a lot of women stay in marriages they don't want to or shouldn't stay in because of spiritual threats and the fear of being spiritually homeless. That's the term that I give it. So they're afraid of being spiritually homeless because they don't think that they can be their own head of household like spiritually. But the reality is that can happen. So when conversations of like, oh, Hmong women marrying outside of the race happens, and people say, oh, you automatically adopt whatever spirituality their family has. You're automatically not a Hmong spiritualist anymore. And that was like very harmful to Hmong women because they're like, no, I'm still me.
I know.
And the opposite can't be said when Hmong men marry outside of the race. A family will adopt that partner, whatever race they are, and into Hmong spirituality and offer spiritual protection if they want it, right?
Not
And-
fair at all.
Yeah.
Again, I'm curious who created these rules for.
So, yeah, and it's tricky because so much of Hmong history has been lost due to war, persecution, right? But what some of our elders will say is that Hmong culture originally was never patriarchal. It was never gender-based. Men and women had equality and were valued the same, had fair opportunities to step into leadership roles or to practice spiritually. Over time, with other cultures trying to assimilate and colonize us, then in time, patriarchy was adopted.
Mhm.
And so who knows who created these rules, but they're there.
Right, exactly.
And it's been a really big conversation in the last decade or so as more and more people are marrying outside of their race and questions of like, where do people belong culturally and spiritually emerge? And then also in the last decade, more and more queer people are stepping into the light and embracing who they are publicly and openly. But where do they belong spiritually, right? That's always been a gray area that no one's wanted to talk about. But once you take away the patriarchal aspect and you actually just understand that spirituality can be practiced by anyone. Of course, shamanism, being a shaman, you can't choose. You have to be chosen, right? That can't be practiced by anyone. But that has always been 50-50 men and women. And as we get more trans and non-binary Hmong folks, we're going to see more like trans and non-binary shamans
That's
as
right.
well.
Can't
right?
wait.
And when you talk to shamans, they'll tell you that in the spiritual world, they use terms like Nia, mother, spirit, Si, father, spirit, but it's not really to designate a gender because the spiritual world, there is no gender. There's just essentially feminine and masculine energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there LGBTQ shaman right now that you know of that you can name call? If you don't, that's okay.
I know a few. I cannot publicly name them because they're not fully out.
And that's the reason why I asked that question.
Yeah, so I know shamans. There's one young shaman who I won't name because I'm not trying to bring extra attention to him,
Respect.
but he's so young and so progressive. I believe still a teenager.
Oh man.
So he is very out, very happily, proudly gay and a shaman. And then there are folks who are older than him who are queer, who when they're practicing shamanism, especially with elders and in more conservative parts of our community, of course they don't bring this part out. They don't talk about it because they understand they understand it's taboo and they understand the harm it could potentially cause them, and so they keep it quiet and they're only out as proud in sections of the community that are more accepting and open-minded.
Right. And I just want to add, this is just so the listeners know where I stand on this. I am a progressive. I am a big supporter of LGBTQ. It took me a long journey just to go through it with the Hmong culture being whether directly or indirectly homophobic. So I have, through osmosis, learned that, right? So it took a lot of, as soon as you just intellectually letting go and releasing these, also processing it, and also being around LGBTQ. Being around them, not just saying, hey, I have a best friend. No. Like literally being around them, advocating, talking to them, treating them as how they want to be treated. And plus, as a social worker, we're taught to just be social justice forwards. Love your LGBT brothers and sisters, especially among too many suicides has happened, too many separations from family. So please, everyone, love them. Yeah,
and I should also mention that I am queer as well. So it's funny because when we were talking about the challenges of being in an interracial relationship.
That's right.
There was one time when my mom was arguing with me, and I just said to her, like, Mom, you're giving me shit for dating a Latino man, but the next person I date might be a woman, so like, you're not gonna get what you want. And she thought I was just trolling her. She was so angry, and I'm like, I'm not trolling you, but I don't think you're ready for that conversation.
No, dude, have you seen that meme where that woman is like laying down? She's like laying on the couch, like, oh, I'm dead. I don't know if you see that. I'll try to put it up on here, but it's just like, you just killed me, daughter. Yeah, yeah. Oh, man.
That's pretty much her. She's just like,
Yeah.
you're ridiculous. I can't even talk to you anymore.
Yeah. But at the
Yeah.
end, you are the beacon for them. Or is there...
Yeah, so I am really excited about Spirited, my documentary, because we're really getting into post-production. We have a new editor, and I'm really excited for it to finally be done because it's been years in the making. And in the meantime, I continue to do other stories, and they're kind of all over the place. And because I'm an independent filmmaker, I have my own production company.
And you have ADHD.
And I'm ADHD. I'm kind of like, I take on whatever interests me and whatever I feel moved by.
Jewel, I sometimes call it organized chaos, but yes, tell me more. Tell me more.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've taken on, I mean, I also do a lot of like community organizing stuff. So I have connections to a lot of other communities and issues that they're working on and things like that. So, I don't do all my stories on just Hmong experiences, but a lot of them are. I'm also really excited for a short documentary that I'm currently directing. It doesn't have a title yet, but it's
cool.
supposed to be done by May.
Okay. Yay.
But this one touches on essentially what has happened in the last 50-ish years since Hmong people have come here, focusing specifically on Hmong farmers. And we have we have 3 characters that we focus on, and 2 of them are these 2 elders who are just really great. One of them is my mom.
Yay.
She's in my other doc too.
I'm sure she's great. Yes.
Yeah. So
free actors.
Yeah, so I'm just excited to share these stories about like these experiences that other people may not have thought about. And also like, I really like to touch on social issues, but through really personal experiences. So because we live in a society where it's like what do they call it? Keyboard warriors, where you're online and it's very easy to be brutal with each other.
Yep.
And when you're debating, it's like no one listens anymore, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, call the trolls because I don't see you. So you're right about that.
Yeah. And also like when you're debating, it's just the way that debates about like real issues happen these days. It's just a little ridiculous now. So for me, I aim for my work not to become a subject of debate, but just an offering of someone's truth.
There we go.
For people to take in as they need to, right? Because you can debate a social issue, but you can't debate someone's lived experiences.
Right.
And I'm hoping that through hearing about other people's lived experiences, people can find connection, empathy, motivation for change, or whatever else it might be.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. Joe, I wanted to thank you for sharing your film experience and your journey and your projects that you're doing. Get them done. I can't wait to see them. If you wanted to share the trailers in here, you're more than welcome to. We'll figure out what way how to put it on here. We'll share your information and so forth. And Joe, I also think, I'm sure you're funding this, so there's a way to fund it. You can put it on here so people can come support too as well.
The Spirited website is just spiriteddocumentary.com. So it has information about the film and my team and also ways to donate. We're still fundraising.
Hell yeah.
Filmmaking is pricey.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will say I never imagined I would become a filmmaker when I was younger, but it makes sense because I spent so much time watching television and movies because it was my way to learn about other cultures. Like, it helped me learn what being American means, right? It's like, and looks like and sounds like, and like exposed me to other cultures and communities, and started watching docs when I was really young. So I think it makes sense that I ended up here because that was the tool through which I learned. And now it's the tool through which I educate and try to inspire connection because it's how I felt connected to other communities, right? I will say, I don't know that there's a cheat code to becoming a filmmaker because industry is always changing. But at the end of the day, this is a field that's really difficult. When I was growing up, I knew no one who was a filmmaker. Of course, I knew of Hmong filmmakers who made content for the Hmong community, but in terms of like creating work that the whole country or the whole world would see, growing up in North Minneapolis, a Black and brown neighborhood, growing up poor, like the most I had access to was my dad would buy cameras and I would play around with them and familiarize myself, but I had no access. what I learned is that so much of becoming a filmmaker, you learn by doing and you learn by connection. So my advice really is to just dive into it using the resources you have and start making films. And your first several films are going to suck, but that is part of the learning experience.
Right.
I look back at my first several films, I'm like, oh my gosh, those are horrendous.
That's like looking back at high school photos, like, what the heck was I doing?
Exactly. But they're very valuable because through those experiences, you learn, oh, this is how I shot that. This is how I can do better. And that's actually the best way to learn. You can't learn that from a college. You can't learn that from a training. Like, yes, you can learn some of the technical skills, but when it comes, like, filmmaking is still an art. It requires intuition and artistic eye. And you can only develop that by creating. So creating, studying other people's work, figuring out what you're inspired by, the types of stories that you're motivated to tell, and then also connection, because this is a field and an art that is really difficult to do alone. So I think in the beginning, a lot of filmmakers do it alone out of necessity because you're brand new. No one wants to work with you yet. You need to build up your portfolio. So you're creating things alone, which I think is good. So you can learn all the skills. You learn how to produce. You learn how to direct. Learn how to shoot and edit, right? And that makes you a better filmmaker in whatever role you choose in the future. But learning all of that helps and building the portfolio. And then building community. A film community is really vital because not only is it that you're finding people that you can collaborate with and create really beautiful work with, like that's a professional thing, but it's also a very community oriented thing because you have to work with people you trust. Like filmmaking is a trust based art. And I have had to learn the hard way who to not work with and who to work with. And those are really, as a very innocent, naive young woman, I had to learn some really tough lessons. That so much of it is based in trust and whether or not people share your values. I'm a very values-driven person, and the way I run my teams, people say is unique. I don't think it's unique to Minnesotan artists because a lot of Minnesotan artists, not all of us, but many of us are so community-oriented. But outside of Minnesota, that's not the case. But when I assemble a team, I want it to feel like a community. Like we can all really just value each other's voices and skills. So it's really important to just widen your community. Other people call it networking. I call it community because networking just feels shallow. And what it really comes down to is finding your people in the field who believe in you, who will vouch for you, who will send you gigs, who will be a reference for you, and who will mentor you. And I've been really lucky to have found people that have been just amazing for me. And once you find that community, your career actually launches a lot faster.
Right. Absolutely.
Because it's people who are already connected who then get to know you and who are like, oh, wow, I see potential in this young person and I see drive and passion and I'm going to vouch for them for whether it be this film program or this funding for film or whatever it might be. So
no, I think it's powerful. I just write in the notes on like some of the skills that you did, and I just want to share with the guests. Like when I teach in therapy, is like anyone wants to be a millionaire. Cool, me too, right? But it's the work that you put in, so it's understanding the nuts and bolts. And as you listeners can hear, this started young, right? She was playing with a camera. She was looking at documentaries. So it's like something, whether it's implanted or there's an affinity or it's just a drive. So you all should ask yourself, what was that moment for me when you did it? Because for me, it was just like seeing people smile because I did it, right? Or because I was part of it and played a role, or I'm happy because I did this. So of service to others. So that's why I'm a social worker, organizer, and so forth. Another thing you talked about is time, the time that you put in this. So time is very important because time multiplies with the skills that you talked about too as well. And then one thing about this, the reason why I like asking these questions to guests is about how does someone who's interested becomes what you want to be? Because apprenticeship is very important. How do you teach? How do you become an apprentice? And then how do you work with a mentor? So I think that's kind of what you went to, Jewel. And now you're being a mentor because now you're teaching and you're leading. So I think that's very powerful. Any last words, advice on a potential filmmaker?
Yeah, to kind of bounce off of what you just said, I think
Mhm.
to become a filmmaker, you have to practice a lot of humility. I think
Right.
this is an industry with a lot of ego,
Mhm.
understandably,
Bet.
a lot of ego, and sometimes people think that ego gets you far. And sure, ego to some degree, right? Fake it till you make it.
Mhm.
Be like, oh, I'm the best, and people might believe it. But I have found for me, humility is better because
Mhm.
if you're willing to take, like, taking on a role that like is less than what you're qualified for can still teach you so much,
Right.
right? So, and you can still learn from different people and learn different things that then make you a better filmmaker. And also people just prefer to work with nice people, yeah, humble people. So that's really important, and being a lifelong learner, because filmmaking is an art. Art's always changing. What people are consuming and watching is always changing. But also technology is always changing, like always changing. So you have to always be open to learning new technology. And then on top of that, the industry is always changing. So what is getting funded, what is getting bought and distributed is always changing. And so you have to like keep your ear to the ground and always be learning. So that's really important. I think for me, another really big takeaway is figuring out what it is you actually really want and being willing to put yourself out of your comfort zone for that. I had mentioned that when I was younger, I was so shy that I had selective mutism. I just never spoke. And even though I started speaking, I was still a really shy, introverted person. So when I was trying to make it in filmmaking, my options were pay a ton of money and get a ton of loans to go to film school to get the connections and the education, or teach myself, as all the filmmaker greats say is the best way to do it, and find the connections myself. But I would go to like film festivals and look around and like walk around once and leave because I was so shy, and the thought of talking to people like, oh my god, so
You're too funny, but you win. But you're too funny. Like,
yeah,
no, 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 no.
yeah. I was like, this is too much social
Yeah.
pressure.
Exactly.
But I realized, you know what, Joy, you're never going to make in this field if this is what you're doing. So I had to train myself. I had to like train myself and work myself up. And now, according to other people, they think I'm an extrovert because I'm so good at socializing now. And it's because I trained myself to be so, but also because I realized that for me, you have to know what your personal values are. For me, networking just for surface level, like, oh, getting like job opportunities, that's not really a value for me, but like actually building community is a value for me.
And you can't
So,
do that by yourself.
yeah. And so when I thought of it from that lens, from my personal values, then it was easier because I'm like, no, I'm building friendships. I'm building
That's right.
community connections, and it's a lot easier for me to talk to people. And then one thing I do as well is I love to connect to other people. I'm like, oh, this filmmaker and this filmmaker, I feel like we both would really like connect well. So
Okay,
here's,
professional Cupid.
yeah, so I love to do that because it's all about connection, and that's how you grow as a filmmaker and as a community.
No, I think these are powerful advice. I think a lot of the time our parents, excuse me, whether generation depending you come from, they say they just know what a society sees, doctors, police, the general profession, but there's so much more. And I think this is really good insight, Joel. I'm going to transition soon, but is there any last word regarding your career as a filmmaker and your advice?
Yeah, I think I would just say that just because you haven't seen someone from your community do it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's possible. You just have to be willing to really blaze a new trail that hasn't been taken. And oftentimes there are other people who've left breadcrumbs along the way or left
Mm-hmm.
stepping stones. And you're just one of the many people who are turning that slowly into a road for other people down the
That's
way.
right.
So I would say to not be afraid of that and to really just move forth, even if it's a career path that you haven't seen other people do. Because just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us on Letters to My Podcast inaugural Season 1. We hope you can hear the power of storytelling, vulnerability, and self-expression rooted in the Hmong tradition. Let's continue to bridge the digital divide. I am Sai's niece. My name is Emma, and he is my uncle. He has helped me become more confident and made me come out of my comfort zone. I remember one day he took us nieces out to Dairy Queen. We decided to race back to the car, but my sister ran too fast and slipped under the car. It was memorable because it was funny, and those moments are something I would cherish forever. Letters to My Podcast is where vulnerability meets self-discovery. Self-discovery meets writing. Journaling, writing letters, or handwriting isn't just about writing what is on your mind or reliving your experiences. It is a medium for self-expression and self-reflection. Take a pause and time to think. For Sai, it began with journaling in college, a practice that became a lifeline. He poured his fears, tears, failures, successes, self-doubt, and inspiring quotes on index cards. At one point, he had over 300 index cards in a shoebox. Writing helped him discover a powerful path to self-awareness, increasing his mental well-being and assisting in processing his emotions. As a social worker, pen and paper were his constant companion, helping him process interactions and to not miss anything important. Sai has benefited from the power of writing and wants to revitalize this practice and share it with you all. A little bit more about my uncle, who is the host. Sai, he, him, his, is a first-generation Hmong American man, social worker, and community organizer with over 12 years of experience. Sai is diagnosed with ADHD. He is passionate about building community through storytelling, self-expression, and the importance of affinity with their human counterpart. Sai believes each generation builds upon the next and seeks to uplift the next generation. One quote that embodies Letters to My Podcast. Our children are the greatest hope we have. The future belongs to them. Nelson Mandela, South African revolutionary. Letters to My Podcast focuses on passing wisdom and uplifting the next generation. It is our turn to pass the torch of wisdom and leave the world a better place than we found it. Letters impart our hopes, dreams, and future to the next generation. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and give a 5-star rating to help with the algorithm. Letters to My Podcast is on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Disclaimer: Sai Ying, LMSW, is not establishing a therapist-client relationship with listeners through this podcast, and any reliance on the content is at your own risk. The views expressed in this podcast are Sai Ying's personal opinions and do not necessarily reflect the views of their employer or licensing board. For any mental health concerns or questions, please seek guidance from a licensed mental health professional or call or text the National Suicide Hotline 988. Thanks for listening to Letters That Speak, Stories That Heal. Sai's niece Emma, outro done. Oh, ciao.